Hey guys, so prenuptial agreements. What are they? Do you need one? What do you need to know about them? So prenuptial agreements are really a contract between two people when they're about to get married. And the purpose of them is really to alter the law to fit what they would like to have happen in the event of a divorce, and in some instances also in the event of a death. So prenuptial agreements can cover lots of things, and often they cover property distribution, attorney's fees, alimony, and sometimes people try to sneak in some children's issues into prenuptial agreements. So when you go to get a divorce, the things that we typically talk about, I usually use the acronym PEACE, P-E-A-C-E. Parenting issues, equitable distribution, which is your debts and your assets, alimony, child support, and then everything else, like name changes and all the minor details that go along with getting a divorce. So a prenuptial agreement is never going to deal with parenting issues, at least it shouldn't. And if it does deal with parenting issues, it's very likely to be challenged later on, and I wouldn't rely on that as being enforceable. Equitable distribution, very enforceable. That's really the purpose of prenuptial agreements. We have them so that we can determine what's going to happen with your assets and your debts in the event of a divorce, and sometimes death. So we can, under Florida law, when two people get married, everything that they acquire thereafter, both debts and assets, becomes marital. And at the time of a divorce, it gets divided up, usually equally. So we are able, with prenuptial agreements, to alter that and to say, nope, we don't want to create any marital property, or we only want to create this kind of marital property. We only want marital property that we title jointly in both of our names to be marital. If we don't title it jointly, we want it to remain our individual property. There are also things that happen under Florida law to your individual premarital property that converts it over to marital property at the time of a divorce. So a prenuptial agreement can stop that from happening. Prenuptial agreements also fairly frequently deal with alimony and attorney's fees. So it's really important to know from the beginning that these provisions relating to attorney's fees and alimony may or may not be enforceable at the time of an actual divorce. So we write them in because a lot of times courts are going to give deference to a contracted agreement between parties. And many times the agreement that you enter into is enforceable, but there are instances where it may not be. People's circumstances change, and both of these things are based on need and ability to pay. And as a result, we may look at that differently at the time of a divorce. So it's just never ironclad. There are some things that we can do to tighten it up and make it a little bit more enforceable, but it's never guaranteed. So those are the things that are typically dealt with in a prenuptial agreement. Prenuptial agreements usually are enforceable. They do not get set aside very often, but there are certain things that can make them easier to set aside, and there are certain grounds upon which they can be contested. So it is really important to work with an attorney who's qualified, who's experienced, and who not only is a family attorney, but is a family law attorney who very frequently deals with prenuptial agreements. They're based very heavily in contract, and you want to make sure that someone is up to date on all of the newest information about prenups and is giving you good advice about how to protect yourself and how to make sure that your marriage is getting off to the right foot with a good agreement that the two of you have reached mutually and with a lot of forethought and conversation. If you'd like to talk about prenuptial agreements, either us preparing them or us reviewing them, we're happy to offer a free consultation. You can get in touch with our office at 954-800-0841 or 866-FAM, F-A-M, Law, L-A-W, 8. We take cases for prenuptial agreements throughout the state of Florida.